Terrifier 2 cost $250,000 to make. It went on to make $15 million, and people were throwing up in theaters. That same year, A Cure for Wellness cost $40 million, and it made $26 million and disappeared in 2 weeks. In Japan, someone made One Cut of the Dead for $25,000. $30 million later, it's one of the most profitable movies ever made. Meanwhile, Lionsgate spent $28 million on Pride and Prejudice Zombies, and it made $16 million and killed the entire zombie genre. This happens every single year. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly why big budgets are ruining horror movies and why the cheap ones just keep winning year after year. So let's start with what might be one of the most embarrassing examples of this. Pride and Prejudice and zombies. Someone looked at Jane Austen and thought, you know what this needs? Rotten corpses. And then they spent $28 million on that idea. The movie came out in 2016 and made $16 million worldwide. $16 million on a $28 million budget. And now, I'm not very good at business, but that's not good. That is not even close. That is not even half. And this wasn't some weird indie experiment that nobody had heard about before. Lionsgate put it in theaters. They had Lily James and Matt Smith in it. They shot period costumes and had fight choreographers and built the entire sets to look like old England, but with zombies walking around. The whole pitch was basically, what if Darcy could also kick ass? Apparently the answer was, nobody gives a fuck. Like literally, haven't we learned from putting British people in zombie movies? Just kidding. 28 days later, good movie. He is also British, I understand. Here is the thing though, the book sold pretty well. People liked the idea when it was cheap and quick to read, but spending 2 hours in a theater watching it, yeah, that's a different story. The movie couldn't figure out who it was for. If you like Jane Austen, this probably felt insulting. If you like zombie movies, this was too slow, boring, and talky. So you end up with nothing. A movie that costs almost $30 million and appeals to basically nobody. Now, that same year, some random guy in Japan, a guy named Shinichiro Ueda, made a zombie movie for $25,000. That is correct, $25,000. That is not a typo. One Cut of the Dead started showing in one single theater in Tokyo, and then something weird happened. People kept talking about it. They told their friends. Those friends told more people. It spread. Within months, it was playing in theaters all over Japan. It made $30 million on a $25,000 budget, which, if you're good at math, that is 1,000 times its budget. That's stonks. The movie is only 96 minutes long, and it's shot in 8 days with people from an acting workshop. The first 37 minutes is one continuous take of a zombie attack happening during a live TV broadcast. You watch it thinking, okay, this is kind of rough, but it is interesting. Then the movie stops and shows you how they made that terrible live broadcast, and it's genius. You realize the whole point is watching a terrible director try to make a zombie movie go right while everything goes wrong. It's funny and clever, and it cost nothing. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies tried to be a big studio crowd pleaser and pleased absolutely nobody. Something my ex-wife had in common with me. One Cut of the Dead knew exactly what it was, and people loved it for that. At least that one tried to be fun though, because you know, when you don't take yourself too seriously, people tend to like you more. Well, let's move on to someone who took their movie a little too seriously, even though I consider this to be a good movie. Darren Aronofsky convinced Paramount to give him $30 million and Jennifer Lawrence so he could make a movie where she plays Mother Earth being destroyed by humanity. That's what Mother is. It's an allegory. He said this openly, and Paramount marketed it as a regular horror movie because how else do you sell that? And honestly, this movie's marketing is frankly just horrible. I put off watching this movie for so long just because I thought the cover image was so boring. Any sort of synopsis I could read that didn't give away the entire plot, it didn't seem like my cup of tea. But I watched it, I was like, damn, this is a really good movie. It is marketed so horribly. The movie came out in September 2017, and audiences were so mad about it that they gave it an F cinema score. An F. Do you know how rare that is? Cinema score polls opening night crowds who are usually the most excited people. These are fans who showed up first thing, and they hated it so much they gave it the worst possible grade. People walked out. The ones who stayed were furious. They thought they were getting a creepy thriller about a woman being gaslit in her home. Instead, they got biblical chaos and a baby being eaten and Jennifer Lawrence's heart being ripped out while people worship it. The movie made 44 million worldwide, which sounds okay until you remember it cost 30 million just to make. Add in marketing and Paramount lost their money. A lot of money. And look, some critics liked it. I like it. Other people think it's brilliant, but when you spend that much on a movie, you need more than just some people. You need a lot of people. And Mother made regular moviegoers so angry that they told everyone to avoid it. Now, let's talk about Skinamarink. This movie was made in 2022 for $15,000. The director shot it in his childhood home in Canada, which if you didn't know was right next to me because I'm Canadian and we're all neighbors here. So yeah, it's an hour and 40 minutes of mostly dark rooms and hallways while two kids deal with something supernatural happening. Their parents disappear. The doors and windows vanish. You barely see anything. It is all atmosphere and dread and weird. A copy leaked online before release and TikTok went nuts for this. People started posting clips saying this is the scariest thing I've ever seen, or I couldn't finish it. It became this challenge. Can you sit through Skinamarink? Well, when it finally got a limited theater release in January 2023, it made $2 million. $2 million on 15,000. That's over 13,000% profit. Both movies are weird. Both movies are definitely not for everyone. In fact, I like Mother way more than I like Skinamarink, but one of them cost $15,000, so it didn't need to be for everyone. The other cost $30 million and needed to work for a huge audience, and it absolutely did not. That is the difference. When you're cheap, you can be as strange as you want, but being strange isn't always the problem. Sometimes the problem is nobody knows your movie exists. Gore Verbinski made A Cure for Wellness in 2016 for $40 million. He shot it in real German castles. The movie looks incredible. The production design is beautiful. There are these huge elaborate sets with creepy medical equipment and eels everywhere and this whole gothic atmosphere that actually works. Critics who liked it really liked it, but cry me a f***ing river because it made $26 million worldwide. Look, hot take, your movie can look amazing, but if it is boring and nobody watches it, what is the point? I feel like directors gotta learn this. And obviously I am just a YouTuber behind a camera that gives his opinions, but like, it's gotta be entertaining. I know that at least, right? Fox released it in February 2017 with almost no marketing. The trailers were confusing. Is it a thriller? Is it a horror? Is it about a spa or a conspiracy or body horror? Is it some weird video that should be on a website nobody should be going on? Nobody could tell. And then a week later, Get Out came out and everyone forgot A Cure for Wellness existed. In fact, you probably don't even know this movie exists. How many of you have never even heard of this movie? Let me know in the comments below. How many of you know about Get Out? I'm gonna guess about like 99% of you. And the other percent, if you don't know about Get Out, you're probably racist. Just kidding. That's a joke, guys. Don't take it too seriously. It's just a joke. Anyways, it opened at number 10. It was just gone. And you can't blame audiences for not showing up to something they didn't know about. Fox clearly didn't believe in it because they dumped it and moved on, just like my ex-wife did. Meanwhile, in 2022, a guy named Damien Leone made Terrifier 2. This is a sequel to the first hit Terrifier movie, which was basically a super low-budget slasher that some people found on Netflix or like some bootleg website and went, holy shit. This is brutal. The second one cost $250,000. It's unrated. It's 2 hours and 18 minutes long. That's longer than most horror movies in theaters. And literally there's not a ton of story. It's just Art the Clown killing people in the most over-the-top, violent ways possible for the entire runtime. But here's the funny thing. That is all it needs to be. Here's what happened. When it came out, people started saying that they were throwing up in theaters, that audience members were fainting. And whether that was true or exaggerated, it became this news story. A horror movie was too intense for audiences, so obviously everyone wanted to see it to see what it was all about. Theaters that weren't planning to show it added it, and it kept expanding, and it made $15 million. $15 million for an unrated indie slasher that's over 2 hours long. The studio didn't pay for that marketing. Horror fans did it themselves. They told everyone online. They dared their friends to watch it. The gore effects were all practical and looked legitimately disgusting, so clips went viral. By the time it finished its run, Art the Clown was a new horror icon, and Terrifier 3 was already being planned. And if you want a really good example of how well this did, look at Terrifier 3's box office earnings. Yeah, that's a lot of money. A Cure for Wellness had $40 million and beautiful cinematography, and nobody gave a shit. Terrifier 2 had $250,000 and practical gore effects that made people sick and became a phenomenon. Moving on, Underwater finished shooting in 2017, sat on a shelf for 2 years, and Disney inherited it when they bought Fox, and you could just tell that they wanted it gone. They They released it in January 2020 with the kind of marketing campaign that screams, "Please fucking forget this exists." The movie stars Kristen Stewart as an engineer at an underwater drilling station that gets attacked by something, and that something turns out to be Cthulhu, which sounds pretty cool actually, and the movie is actually pretty good. I went and saw this in theaters, but I knew nothing about this movie. I hadn't seen an ad. I was just bored on a weekend. I was like, oh, let's see if there's any horror movies. That's a horror movie. I'm gonna go see it. The effects are good. The creatures look legitimately scary. Kristen Stewart's acting is great in it. The movie is basically Alien but underwater, and it works fine for what it is. Critics gave it mixed reviews, but nothing terrible. You know, most critics got sticks up their asses, so can you really take them that seriously? Audiences who saw it mostly liked it. The problem is almost nobody saw it, because it opened in early January to $7 million and made $40 million total worldwide. It cost $50 million to make. Disney clearly didn't want to spend another dollar on it, so they just let it die quietly, just like my ex-wife's relationship with me. But here's where it gets interesting. 6 months later, July 2020, lockdown is in full effect. Everyone's on Zoom calls all day for work and school and everything. People are exhausted and scared and stuck at home. And someone makes a horror movie about a Zoom call gone wrong. Host is 56 minutes long. The entire thing is shot on Zoom. 6 friends get on a video call to do a seance as a joke during quarantine. They accidentally summon something real. It kills them one by one through their webcams. The budget was maybe a few £1,000s. The director, Rob Savage, shot it remotely with the actors in their own homes doing their own camera work and practical effects. One actress rigged her kitchen cabinets to slam open on cue when she was screaming on camera. Shudder released it in July 2020, and it became the most talked about horror movie of the year. It got a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Every news outlet covered it. It boosted Shudder's subscriptions significantly. People watched it and immediately told their friends because it felt so current and real and tied into real events. Everyone was living on Zoom. The fear was immediate. Underwater spent $50 million and got dumped. Host spent almost nothing and became a cultural moment. The difference was understanding what people were actually feeling right then. Underwater was made in 2017 for 2017 audiences. Host was made in lockdown for people living through lockdown. It mattered. Although sometimes knowing your audience isn't enough either. Let's talk about Dr. Sleep, and it had an impossible job. It's adapting Stephen King's sequel to The Shining, but The Shining movie was made by Stanley Kubrick, and Stephen King famously hates that movie. So Mike Flanagan had to make something that worked as a sequel to a movie the original author hates, while also being faithful to King's actual book. Yeah, good luck with that. Warner Bros. Gave him $50 million. They rebuilt the Overlook Hotel sets. They recreated famous shots from Kubrick's movie with new actors who looked similar. They got Ewan McGregor. The movie is 2.5 hours long, and it's actually pretty good. Critics liked it. It's got a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fans of both King and Kubrick seemed mostly happy with how it balanced everything. But it didn't matter, because it made $72 million worldwide, which was barely more than the budget. After marketing costs, it lost money. The problem was simple. Young people who hadn't seen The Shining didn't care. Older people who loved The Shining weren't rushing to theaters either. It came out in November 2019, right when Joker and Terminator were taking up all the screens. The marketing kept showing the Overlook Hotel, and people were just like, okay, and there was no urgency to see it. It looked good, but not necessary. And in 2019, you could just wait 2 months and just stream it at home. Now, in the meantime, South Korea has this abandoned psychiatric hospital called Gonjiam. CNN listed it as one of the freakiest places on earth. It's genuinely famous for being haunted. So in 2018, someone made a found footage movie about a group of YouTubers who go there to live stream a ghost hunt, and it cost $2.2 million. The movie is exactly what you would expect. Shaky cameras, dark hallways, jump scares. But it worked, and it worked damn well. It scared Korean audiences badly enough that it became the second highest grossing Korean horror movie ever. It made $20 million in South Korea alone, which is 9 times the budget just in one country. The movie later got international distribution and did even better. Gonjiam knew its audience. Korean people already knew about this hospital. They were already scared of it. The movie just put them inside it. Dr. Sleep was trying to serve Stephen King fans, Stephen King himself, and Stanley Kubrick fans, and horror fans, and general audiences. That's a lot lot of ants. That is too many cooks in the kitchen. Gonjiam served one group well. Dr. Sleep tried to serve everybody and failed, which brings me to talking about the remake that nobody wanted. Flatliners from 1990 is not a good movie. It's fine. It's about medical students who stop their hearts to see the afterlife, and it made $61 million back then, which was pretty decent. So naturally in 2017, someone decided we needed a new version with Elliot Page and a $19 million budget, and it got 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's almost impressive. You have to work pretty damn hard to make something that many people hate. The remake came out the same month as It, which is already a death sentence. Your mediocre PG-13 supernatural movie is competing with Pennywise, pulling in $100 million opening weekend. But even without that, Flatliners was doomed. Nobody remembered the original fondly enough to care about a remake. Young audiences had never heard of it. The new version changed nothing interesting. Just the same plot with worse execution and a rating that meant it couldn't even be scary. It opened at number 5 with $6 million and finished with $34 million worldwide. It lost money and disappeared forever. Now, let me tell you about The Gallows. This movie is legitimately bad. Not flawed but interesting bad, but just bad. The acting is terrible, the plot makes no sense, the scares are cheap, it got a C cinema score, which means even opening night crowds who are usually generous thought it kinda sucked. It got 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone hated it. But Blumhouse made it for $100,000. It's found footage and it takes place in a high school where a play went wrong 20 years ago and a kid died on stage. Now, some teenagers sneak in at night and the dead kid's ghost kills them. That's it. That's the movie. Warner Bros. Released it wide in July 2015 and it opened to $10 million. $10 million on opening weekend. The entire production cost was paid for 100 times over in 3 days. It kept going though. It made $43 million total. The movie is legitimately unwatchable, but it didn't matter because the budget was so low that even terrible word of mouth couldn't kill it fast enough. Blumhouse won. They made 400 times their money back on a movie that nobody liked. Meanwhile, Flatliners had a real budget and real actors and name recognition and lost money trying to please audiences who just weren't interested. Quality doesn't matter when your movie costs nothing. That's the lesson. Make it cheap enough and you've already won. But if I'm being honest, cheap only works if people will actually show up. Which brings me to one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years and one of my least favorite movies of the last couple of years. That's right, we're talking about Freddy Fazbear. Five Nights at Fredbear's opened to $80 million in October 2023. $80 million. It's the second biggest horror opening ever. This is a movie about bootleg Chuck E. Cheese robots based on a video game that came out 10 years ago. And it was available on Peacock the same day for free if you had a subscription. People still went to theaters though, in huge numbers. Obviously you know why. It's fucking Five Nights at fucking Fredbear's. Fucking Markiplier. MatPat for God's sake. I don't know. The movie cost $20 million to make. It already made over $250 million worldwide. Critics hated it. It got a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. They said it was boring and confusing if you hadn't played the games. But none of that mattered because critics often don't have lives and their wives all hate them. Literally, this movie doesn't need to be good. It just needs to be fun. And you know what it is? It's fun. It's a little goofy. It's a little scary if you're a baby and you're scared of like the dark or something, but it doesn't need to be anything crazy. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. The fact that a little indie game is getting a movie is just cool enough to think about. Sometimes I get so mad at critics and how they rate movies because they're such snobs. You know, like that film kid in high school? Like that person? I hate those people. Like I talk about movies on my fucking YouTube channel. So people are like, oh, you're probably a film kid. No, just like if it's good, it's good. It doesn't need to be this cinematic master. I don't need to see Freddy Fazbear's ass in 4K with some like motif of an allegory of the Edgar Allan Poe. You know what I mean? That doesn't matter. Just show me him tearing a children in half and eating them. That's all I gotta see. Literally none of any of that mattered. The movie was made for fans of the game and fans of the game showed up. They dressed up as the characters. They brought their parents. Hell, you wanna talk about video game movies? I brought my mom to see the Minecraft movie. She even liked it. She hasn't played a video game once in her life. I got her to even yell chicken jockey. Anyways, this movie was able to fill theaters on a Tuesday night. They didn't give a shit about critics' thought because the movie movie had Easter eggs and references and lore that only they understood. Literally, if you were even close to my age or younger, this was a big deal for you. Universal knew who this was for. They made it PG-13 so kids could see it. They filled it with nods to the games. They didn't try to explain everything to the newcomers. And it worked. Fans got exactly what they wanted and told everyone else to see it. The movie became literally a cultural experience, just like Endgame, just like the Minecraft movie. 4 months earlier, Universal also released the most godforsaken, dumbest movie ever, Renfield. This one cost $65 million, and it has Nicolas Cage, who plays Dracula. He is completely unhinged in it. The movie is a horror comedy about Dracula's assistant trying to quit his toxic job, which sounds great on paper. Wrong. Nick Cage as a vampire should be an easy sell. It should, but this movie sucks. It made $26 million worldwide. 26 on a $65 million budget. It bombed. Why? Well, because I hate it. That's why. But because nobody actually knew what it was. The trailer showed gore and jokes, but it wasn't clear if it was actually funny or actually scary. Horror fans thought it looked too goofy. And I thought it looked too goofy, but not in like a good goofy. I'm one of the goofiest guys around. I'm a fucking goofy goober at the Krusty Krab. I thought this movie looked stupid. Comedy fans thought it looked too violent. It came out in April against the Mario movie, and guess what? It got destroyed. It opened to $8 million and was gone within 2 weeks. Renfield had an okay concept and a great weird performance from Cage. It still failed because it wasn't made for anyone specific. Five Nights at Freddy's was made for one group of people, and they all showed up because they are legitimately a cult. You say anything bad about their video games, they will cancel you. This comment section probably loves me because I say I like this movie, but if I said I hated Five Nights at Freddy's, I would be canceled into oblivion. That is the difference. Know who your movie is for, or you'll make a movie for nobody and you'll be a broke-ass director like all the rest of them. But sometimes though, people just show up because of your name. Jordan Peele made Get Out for $4.5 million. It made $255 million. So when he announced his next horror movie, people paid attention. Universal gave him $20 million for Us. Still cheap by studio standards, but way more than Get Out. And it made exactly the same amount, $255 million. Same number because people trusted him that much after his first big horror hit. The movie came out in March 2019 and opened to $71 million. That is a record for an original horror movie. Not a sequel, not a remake, not based on anything, just a new scary movie that Jordan Peele made. The marketing was perfect. That creepy remix of I Got Five on It in the trailer, the image of a family in red jumpsuits holding gold scissors. It looked unique and weird, and people wanted to see what Peele would do next after Get Out. Think about how risky this was though. Like if you were the average director who was trying to play it safe, make a bunch of money and earn studio trust, you would have just made Get Out 2. But Peele had the balls to say, nah, I'm gonna make another thing that's completely original and just go with that. Well, it worked because critics loved it. It got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences talked about it for weeks trying to figure out what it all meant. The symbolism, the metaphors, whether it was about class or identity or America. That kind of conversation makes people see it twice. And Lupita Nyong'o playing two completely different versions of the same character got her a ton of praise. The movie worked on every level. Like I normally hate when that happens, when an actor plays two different characters that are like related or twins or like somehow connected. I usually hate that. But this was a really good example of that. Let's not talk about Michael B. Jordan in Sinners though. I really wish they just used two different actors. I just couldn't get out of it for some reason in that movie. I wish I loved that movie, but I don't know. Anyways though, that same year, Lionsgate spent $50 million rebooting Hellboy. The previous Hellboy movies from the 2000s were beloved. Guillermo del Toro directed them and Ron Perlman played Hellboy, and they had this perfect mix of action and heart and weirdness. The reboot tried to go darker and edgier with an R rating instead of PG-13. More blood, more swearing, more CGI monsters. It didn't matter. It opened to $12 million. It made $55 million total. It barely covered the budget before marketing. Critics destroyed it with a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. There were reports of the director and producers fighting on set, and you could tell. The movie feels like it was edited by 5 different people who all hated each other. The scenes don't flow, the tone is all over the place. David Harbour tried his best, but he wasn't Ron Perlman, and nobody wanted him to be. Us succeeded because Peele earned trust with Get Out and delivered something new and interesting. Hellboy failed because nobody wanted a reboot that threw away everything people liked about the originals just to be edgier. And then there's possibly one of the biggest examples of all of this of all time. It made $700 million on a $35 million budget. That is over 20 times its money back. It was the highest grossing horror movie ever when it first came out. It opened to $123 million domestic. For a movie about a clown in the sewers that is a reboot of an older movie that was semi-popular but not super popular, and definitely Gen Z didn't know about it. Like, these are superhero numbers. That is not supposed to happen for horror. Warner Bros. Released it in September 2017 and everything just went right. The marketing was perfect. There were red balloons everywhere. You'll float too! Became instant meme material. Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise was terrifying, but also became this weird pop culture icon immediately. You want a balloon, Georgie? Georgie, you want a balloon? You better subscribe to the channel or you'll float too. That's my Pennywise voice. If anybody's hiring, hit me up. The movie worked as a horror film and as a coming of age story about kids dealing with trauma. It felt nostalgic without being old, and it was actually scary. The Georgie scene in the opening became one of those moments that everyone talked about, because this is still early in the days that we don't kill children in movies. That don't happen. Let's not talk about 2025. We'll just be like smoking kids left and right these days. They don't give a fuck anymore. Anyways, critics liked it with an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences loved it, including me. It played in theaters for months because people kept going back. Some to see it again, some because they finally gave into peer pressure after everyone told them they had to see it. It became this event, and Stephen King himself approved of it, which helped since he's pretty vocal when he doesn't like adaptations of his work. He's also like extremely vocal about everything I've noticed. I don't know much about his stance on stuff, but he just yaps a lot on Twitter. Now, that same studio tried adapting The Dark Tower the same year. It's a different King property, and this one had been in development hell for years. They finally made it with a $60 million budget, got Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. The books are this massive 8-novel fantasy western sci-fi series about a gunslinger chasing a man in black across a dying world. Huge mythology, tons of lore, very, very complicated. They tried cramming all of it into 95 minutes. The movie is incomprehensible if you haven't read the books, and if you have read the books, it's offensive because they cut out everything that made them interesting. It opened to $19 million. It made $130 million total, but barely broke even. It has a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. Even King was diplomatic about it, which for him means he hated it. Again, he is vocal about everything. It told one story well, focused on kids in Derry fighting one monster. A clear beginning, middle, and end. Dark Tower tried building an entire universe in an hour and a half. It satisfied nobody. One knew what it was, the other tried being everything. It is just better. Let's not talk about it too, though. Let's just not talk about that's not a good movie. That is a generational fumble. So yeah, what do you think? I think it's obvious, but do you think having more money makes for a better horror movie? Because I don't. I think it really matters on what you make. More money can help, obviously, but it's not going to save a shitty script. Anyways, if you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to give it a like and comment down below any of your opinions on these movies. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm right? I'd love to argue with you in the comments. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future uploads. Hit the hype button, and if you want to watch another one of our videos, you can click the video on the screen right now.